Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. I'm Robbie.
I'm Jason.
And welcome to the table. Guys, we got a great episode. We are filming at I feel like we say this, it's like every third episode is about our pace. Because we film every 2 weeks, every third episode makes sense because that's about every month and a half.
Right. Yeah.
But we're filming at a different time. Jason, you've got a full house this evening.
Yep. I think I have 7 kids downstairs. Kids, they're college age kids who are playing D&D. So you may hear them randomly yell or scream every once in a while, but that's okay. And Elizabeth's actually out at a open mic night. One of her coworkers is singing at a coffee house or something. And I didn't know it was a coffee house. I was like, oh, you're going to get boozed up tonight, huh? That's a joke. That's a joke. But she's like, it's a coffee house because she's going with a friend to watch a friend do open mic night. And we're actually filming a separate time. We're filming on a Saturday night versus our Tuesday night because I have another video call that night. I can't rearrange, and I'm going to Busch Gardens in the next 2 days. So often Robbie and I will film on a Sunday afternoon or a Monday afternoon. But I actually am going with my 2 boys to Busch Gardens for a couple of days because we had an annual pass that expires in a couple of days. And so this is a busy weekend. I played a tournament. I'm in a disc golf tournament right now. Played 2 rounds today. I got a round tomorrow. I'm literally coming home, showering, heading right to Busch Gardens, coming back right to that team call. Wednesday morning, the banter. It's a busy time. Good stuff, but busy time.
Hey, it's going to be fantastic. It's not a like, oh man, we do this great thing. We really enjoy this podcast. We said it over and over again. Jason and I would talk this much, whether we're recording the podcast or not. But we just record it for your sake as you are listening. So it's not oh man, looks like we're going to have to get the podcast in this week, Jason. It's like, all right, we're going to get the podcast in because we enjoy it.
Sure.
We just don't know exactly when we're going to do it. So, looking forward to it. Jason, what have you been playing lately?
What have I been playing? So I've been playing a ton of stuff on BGA. I won't mention any of those. I did Space Base last time. Well, I will say this. Okay. In die rolling games, which is appropriate for today, we'll talk about later. If the die don't go your way, you cannot win. It does not matter. It doesn't count, whatever. So this past week, I got up to, in BGA, I'm actually talking about 3 things. I'm talking about Space Base. I talked about Space Base last time. Love Space Base. Absolutely, we got to play it when you come. Quick game, much better version than Machikoro. That's become my go-to game so I can get done in 10 or 12 minutes if people play fast. And BGA has a competitive thing called Arena Play where you play real time, but it's competitive. I got up to 20th in the world. Like, I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
And then we're talking about there's 100. I don't know how deep it goes, by the way, but I was 20th in the world in Space Base earlier this week. But if you don't play, you just drop naturally. And I've been playing more lately, but this is a true statement. Until an hour ago, I had lost 13 straight games because the die just didn't go. I was getting mad. This will let you know. These games are only 12 or 13, 14 minutes, but 13 in a row where I built a big combo and it never hits. Okay, I changed the combo and I'm like, whatever. I hate this game. Let me play again. I hate this game. Let me play again. BJ is great. Hey, I'm actually playing games with Swanky Reed right now. What's up, Reed? We're playing Wingspan. Ryan Scott, another one of our fans, we're playing Parks. And I realized we started playing it and I do not know how to play Parks. And so he's probably going to smoke me because I just started playing it. I was like, oh, I don't really remember Parks. And I think I'm playing with someone else. So we said last week, if you want to play BGA with us, shoot me, just comment in there or send me a DM on Bards of the Board Instagram or Fantastic February Instagram. Let me know your BGA handle, and then we'll pull you in. We'll make friends. The long-term goal is Robbie and I can sync up a night is actually play with y'all real time one night. We're crazy busy at night. So the long-term goal is actually set up a game where you have 3 or 4 people and just jump on in a voice channel or a chat or somewhere and just play some game real time. So now let me pivot real quick. I played 2 games I'm going to talk about because I only played 2. These are actually the only 2 in-person games I've played since we talked last. So I played Illusion. Played this on the other place I work at. We have a live stream on Wednesday mornings. And so we played Illusion. Have you played Illusion, Robbie?
I've not.
So Illusion is a really cool filler game. It's about 70 or 80 cards. And your goal is you're going to turn over a card that has a bunch of different shapes in 4 different colors: yellow, green, red, and blue. So one starts out. The next, and then you turn over a card that says, okay, we're looking at reds this round. So what you're going to do is flip over the next card. And you either have to say, does it have more or less red than the card that's out there? That's all that the entire turn is. Okay, This card comes out, a 1 sitting there. Is this more or less red than this one? If you think it's more, you put it to the right because you're trying to get red going left to right, ascending in how much percentage of the color is red. The cool thing is, if you have 3 or 4 cards out and you pull one out, you can go stick it somewhere else in there. I'm like, well, I think this is actually less than this. The way the scoring goes, if you ever think it's wrong for whatever reason, instead of playing card, you go, no, I think it's wrong. And you flip it over. And if you called it correctly that it was wrong, you get a point. If you call it incorrectly, if you say it was wrong and it wasn't, then the previous player gets a point. You play 3 points and that's it. But it's so unique because it's hard to describe it, but the shapes in the cards, you're like, oh, wow, how much? That's a lot of green, that's a lot of red. Surely red is more. The cool thing on the back of the card, the way you know if you're right, is it shows the percentage of the colors that is green, yellow, red, or blue. So it could be 2% yellow, 3% green, 6% blue, and 9% red or something like that. So that's how you know what it is. You don't see that until you call out, hey, it's wrong or it's right. But Illusion is we don't play it a lot because I have a lot of other filler games, but it plays quick and it plays well and it's so different or unique. The one thing I will say is it just shows how gaming is different because both Trevor and Brad were so focused on the percentage of the card that was the color. Whereas, and it's going to sound like I'm bashing them or not, like the whole game is it more or less? The number doesn't matter. 10%, 11%, 22% is totally irrelevant for where you play that card. But the way their mind works was, oh no, I really, and then they were literally saying, hey, I think that's 12% of the card. And I think, okay, I'm gonna go here. I'm like, it's either more or less to me, right? But maybe that's the smarter way to think about Illusion. But it was just funny how I was like, because they asked a question, I literally didn't understand the question because we were fundamentally looking at that game differently. What makes it fun is because 2 people can play the game the same way, but think tactically about how they play it.
Yeah, I think about. We've seen it even how when I'm approaching a game for the first time versus you're approaching the game for the first time, like I don't have to have the rules in front of me. I can learn. I can try to have that. I feel like for you, for a comfort level, I don't know that I've ever taught you a game that I haven't either had you had the rule book in front of you or you have it digitally in front of you.
Yeah, I'll pull it up because
and so that's a difference maker. And it's like, okay, questions that you're going to ask when trying to learn a game versus questions that I'm going to ask. Like you've never thought about until we started playing games together. It wasn't how many
average
points,
winning score.
Like what's a winning score?
It's like, I have no idea.
Yeah. And so you see that difference in approach. So it's very interesting, especially as Trevor and Brad are not like super experienced. Like Brad's the games Brad has played, he's played a lot and he's very in depth on those games. But as he's not picking up because of just stage of life and things, new games all the time, Trevor's stage of life, not picking up new games.
Right.
Yeah. How you attack a game is so interesting.
Right. And I apologize to Brad later on. So I think I led him down the wrong path because I clearly didn't understand it. And I was like, okay, that makes total sense why you're looking at it that way, which is actually a more smarter and tactically way. Mine's the dumb version is more or less. And that's all I need to know as opposed to going to details. But I think it was a fun game. It went well. I won. So that's always a bonus as well. But it's not one I pull out a lot, but it's one like, okay, that's a fun, quick one that's easy to teach. It's more or less. And if you don't think it is, and then after you go through it once, you're like, oh, I get it now. Now I'm going from my second game. I'm going from like super easy, takes 2 minutes to teach and like 10 minutes to play to beast, like 3.8 weight on a 5-point scale BGG, which is crazy heavyweight games. I don't play. This is literally the heaviest game I own by complexity called Arc Nova. We've had Arc Nova for a while. The idea of it is that you're basically building a zoo. And people call it terraforming zoo because you're playing a bunch of cards to put basically tiles on the board that are your spaces where your animals would then later on go. Enclosures are called. You're spending money to get an enclosure. And then you're eventually buying a animal that you get as a card, a la Terraforming Mars, and putting that animal in there. The coolest thing in Arc Nova, have we talked about Arc Nova? I don't think I've ever talked about Arc Nova, right, Robbie? We definitely.
I don't think so on the podcast. Yeah.
The coolest thing about Arc Nova is you have on your turn, you're going to take one of 5 actions. And you have in front of your board a number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the actions you take are cards sitting in front of you. Everyone has the same 5 actions. But where that card is numbered 1 to 5 gives you the strength of that action. So if you have the draw cards action on 5, you get to draw 3 and discard 1. But if you have it on 3, you get to draw 2 and discard 1. And after you play that card, it goes down to 1 and all the other cards shift to the right. So it's this very interesting tactical game about, okay, do I want to do cards now, or do I want to do animals? Do I want to do this? Or because you're trying to get your cards up to that high level to boost it a little bit. Thankfully, the game has other ways in which you can get little tokens to boost it. So you could be sitting on a 3, but turn this token to get 4. But it is way heavy in a good way. But there's so much going on that on your turn, you're like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this. And we played relatively fast, and including the teach, it took us almost 3 hours. Me, Elizabeth, and Ryder. Elizabeth and I played like half a game once that took 2 hours. We weren't even halfway through because it was a longer teach because I was reteaching ourselves. So maybe like 30 minutes of a teach. We played an hour and a half, and we weren't even halfway through the game yet. And she wanted to finish it. I was like, Elizabeth, it's 10 o'clock at night. We're not even halfway through the game. The other cool thing about Ark Nova, art's amazing, gameplay is super cool, lots of stuff going on, is that it has 2 different scoring tracks. And the way the end of the game is initiated is whenever your 2 tokens going along one track and the other track cross. And then you know, okay, that's the end of the game, and you play one other round. Rogers of Ganges does this, another cool game, but the fact that you have this token, because you're walking, oh, I'm so far away, and next thing you know, like, oh, wow, the game's almost here. It seems like it took forever, but like any kind of engine builder, you're getting stuff really going because the cards have tags on them, like symbols, a la Terraforming Mars, that just help you build. Okay, you can play this, and every time this card gets played, you get 3 money, or every time this card gets played, you get whatever. Ryder didn't like it because he finished with negative points. So it's the game you can finish in negative points. And it's for so long a game to finish in dead last, losing by 40, and you have negative points. He didn't like it, which I totally can relate to. I'm okay with the gameplay. Ryder plays to win, and he says he has fun when he wins, right? You know that. Or at least when he's competitive. So I was like, I'm going to sell it because we're never going to play if Ryder doesn't play it. And Liz is like, I like it. So right now we're keeping Ark Nova. I doubt, unless you ever ask for it, because I have so many other games, I doubt me, you, and Elizabeth ever play Ark Nova. It's an amazing game. It's number 4 on BGA for a reason. And it's only been out for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's worth all the praise it gets. It's just such a long game. So that's what I went from crazy light 5-minute game to 3-hour game. I think I played them on the same day too, because I think the morning of the bench we played Illusion. That night, me, Elizabeth, and Ryder played Ark Nova. So that's the 2 games I played, Robbie.
Hey, I'm here for it. I think that part of why it probably is so high on BGA is because there are folks that just want that really, really crunchy experience. And I think that while they do exist, it is, you all, like, in my mind, you got to think about it. I look at it in like restaurant reviews, right? The people who are willing to review a restaurant are the people that are either like experience of their lifetime or this was the worst experience of my life. Those are what drive you, or you're someone that you're just like, the world needs to know my opinion at all times. And so you are just you're like this small anomaly of like, you go to an AutoZone and congratulations, I'm leaving a Yelp review because I experienced this AutoZone. And it's like, you don't get rewards for that. Like, why are you? Okay, cool. So the people that are willing to like do BG stats and like all of that they're a higher tier of dedicated gamers, which means that the odds of that group loving something super like crunchy makes total sense. So I can totally see that in Ark Nova. I feel like you and I balance we would be totally down for playing a game like that, even like a once a month, really tackling something that's super heavy and all that. We just don't necessarily have the audience readily available that is also willing to agree to once a month. Let's spend 2 to 3 hours just tackling a game. So
and what's funny about Ark Nova is on BGA. So that's what I told Elizabeth. Like I've heard content creators talk about, since it's on BGA, they can get the gameplay fun of it, and it's a little faster because the game takes care of all that station keeping stuff. And so that's what and I may still try to sell Ark Nova is like, Elizabeth, we can just play it on BGA. If it's going to be you and I, we literally can sit side by side and play it on BGA. There's something about the funness. Oh, my leg's cramping up from a disc golf today. Sorry, I literally stretched out because my leg cramped up. I don't deny the fact that having stuff in your hand to play is fun, but those big games take so long to set up as well because there's so many things. Anyway, sorry, I'm talking way too much about it. So, Robbie, what have you been playing since we talked last?
Hey, I had two different opportunities to play games this week, which was fun. One in a much lighter sense, and one we really kind of rolled into with the intention of we have several folks that are trying to get into a game, and so we literally gathered for this experience. So the first one we played was Green Team Wins, which we talked about here on the podcast quite often. So we play Green Team Wins, and I'm so used to watching you teach Green Team Wins, Jason, that I was like, I don't even have to look at the rules. Like I know how to do this. This is very easy, very straightforward. And we were at a birthday party. And so 3 people were playing a game called Therapy. I've never heard of it. But they were playing, someone came and she brought this game and she was so excited for people to play it. But unfortunately, like most people were busy doing something.
Right.
And so they were like, well, we just go ahead and dive in and play this game. So they did, and they played their own game. And then other people were around, and I saw a Green Team Win sitting on a shelf, literally unopened. And I was like, Ryan, you guys want to play Green Team Wins? And he was like, how hard is it to teach? And I was like, Ryan, we will be up and playing this game in under 3 minutes. It's going to take us more time to pass out the materials than it will to teach the game. So, did Green Team Wins and ended up in, I thought that when we played last while I was at your house, the idea of Green Team Wins, if you've not heard us, if you've missed episodes where we talked about it, is essentially there are prompts that ask you to vote on something, and you are trying to pick what the majority of the crowd is going to pick. Sometimes you follow your heart, and your heart tells you this is the definite right answer. Unfortunately, people are just wrong, and they don't follow that definite right answer. So one of the there's 3 different styles of prompts, and one of them is a pick out of 3. So when we were up at Jason's house, it was what sport has the best movies?
Baseball.
Boxing, baseball, or football. And so everyone was like, well, the Rocky films are amazing. And I'm not trying to doubt that they are, but other boxing movies don't hold up. So it's fine. Whatever. The debate that happened on this question, I was crying. I was laughing so hard, Jason. It's which of the following is working the hardest? The graham cracker, the marshmallow, or the chocolate?
Wow. The graham cracker. The answer is the graham cracker. Is it a cracker? Is it a sweet? Is it a, what is it? What is the graham cracker, right? Isn't that the answer?
So we had 6 people playing, and that's where Ryan was like, I feel like this game should be able to play more. And I was like, that's why usually you just buy another set, because
that's exactly
you can include more people. And I almost brought my copy to the party, and I felt so silly for not doing it. So I ended up just like running the game. And so they split. There were 6 people playing, and they went 2-2-2 on each of the options. And people dug their heels in for the argument. And the team who was on graham cracker was like, how are you supposed to get it off of the stick if you don't have a graham cracker? Like, without the graham cracker, it all falls apart. How is it not working the hardest? And he is screaming at this party. It was, I'm crying just hearing him passionately argue for it. So Green Team Wins, great stories. That's my favorite part about party games, is that so often in an Ark Nova situation, you walk away from it and you're like, I won that game. But the like prevailing memory is Ryder's sad because he played for 3 hours and ended up with negative points. Like,
that's true.
There's a big move that can happen in those games, but because party games are so light and fun, you end up with all these like inside jokes that end up coming from them. And I'll never look at us more the same. So really, really love. I can't brag on it enough.
What's funny about that? I've been thinking about doing Green Teams Wins or a shorter version for the banter. But what makes it better is intentionally choose some of those cards just for topics to talk about. 100%. There's no doubt. I'm just going to start keeping Green Team Wins cards in my pocket. Okay, here's topic discussion. Boom. Which is working harder and Ace more? That'd be, that'd be an awesome conversation on the banter. So sorry, but I hadn't thought so I've always thought about playing the game, but like, okay, we're not even going to play the game. I'm just going to get some fun questions that are topic of conversations to go. So, and you're right. Yeah. Green Team Wins does it because there's such a variety of stuff. Because even a this or that question, you could just go on. Do you like, sweet or sour or whatever, right? That's cool.
Yeah. So really enjoyed it. And then the second game is a game that I talked about last week. And I'll be honest, there's a very real chance that it's just going to take up so many slots for me. Because I'm a hobbyist. I got into it and I literally have shot a video and it's going live on my gaming channel on Monday, regarding it, but it's Disney's Lorcana. It's a trading card game. I've convinced I got Ryan into it, and then Ryan got his friends into it. So we literally got to his house because he has a friend who lives in Orlando, right outside of Disney Springs, like walking distance to Disney Springs. And so he can get early access to everything because they drop all of it at the Disney stores early. So he has he has a complete collection of Lorcana. Like every single card has multiple copies of most every single card, has the autographed, like by the artist, those kind of his collection was insane. So he came to town and we just had a Lorcana night. Everybody played starter decks, had a blast. And we're just all like kind of cutting our teeth into it. So super fun. I've started the buzz inside of my Discord or my disc golf Discord, and things are growing there. So we're having a blast with it. Really, really loving Lorcana.
Yeah, I need to. Excuse me, I didn't do that. Now that Nate's into it, and Brad would love it as well because Brad comes from that background. I just need to introduce Brad to it sometime because I said on the episode we talked about I have a whole booster pack box just sitting sealed up because I want to want to buy a car one day with it or something. So, but it is truly fun to play. It's so easy to play. It's the thing about me, and you're actually exemplifying why I don't do it is because it's a single thing that goes deep and wide, but it's deep. I like the wide. I want to do a bunch of different things as opposed to going deep on one thing. And I have very few things that go deep on one thing, especially in the gaming world, because we play Crokinole. I could just play Crokinole all day long, every day. I don't know if you watched the Banters last week, Robbie, where we played Crokinole. I've avoided buying one because I knew I would love it. And in the board game world, people love Crokinole. And a really nice board's really expensive. A really good board, $350, $550, $6. I mean, it's expensive. You can buy it on Amazon, but I want a really good board. That's what I told Elizabeth. I was like, I will hold out for a very nice board because I want a nice board. But I know I could just sit and play that all day long, right? And so I've avoided Lorcana. I'll play it a little bit before you come up just to get refreshed because, of course, we'll have to play Lorcana since you're going deep in it as well. And I'll get smoked because I just don't know the cards. I don't have the patience for learning those things because I don't come from that Magic the Gathering background or Pokemon or any of those things. That's none of my history. It's still, I always understood it, but it's just not for me. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you got to do that.
The friend that came up, he literally, it was like, I would talk about like, oh, I'd love to build a deck around like this card. And he was like, oh yeah, you could throw in this or this or this or this or this. And he knew like you tell him a card and he's like, oh yeah, that's a 3 willpower, 5 or 3 strength, 5 willpower, 4 cost, inkable, knew all of it. And I was like, brother, there are 1,000 cards in this game already. That's crazy. But we didn't come here to talk about Lorcana. We didn't come here to talk about just the games we've been playing lately. So, Jason, today we are talking about a game that it's beloved, I think, by so many people. A game that really just, if you're building a board game collection, this is one of the easy, natural jumps from people who have played traditional board games and they're looking to get into the hobby game world. Today, we're talking King of Tokyo. You want to tell the people about it?
For sure. I'll preface this by saying you also will hear, I'm going to tell you a quick gameplay. And then Robbie and I, after last week's episode, or 2 weeks ago episode, decided, we should put a little more structure to how our things go. So you'll hear us today lead into each of those things, but I'm just kind of prefacing a little bit because we'll talk gameplay. And then we have different kind of topics to help drive our discussion because we don't want to miss anything, but sometimes we're going all over the place. So we have focused discussion and hope it'll help you all too, because we'll go deep on one specific thing and maybe reference something else and go deep on another. So, all right, here we go. King of Tokyo released in 2011, which is crazy to think it's been released that long ago. So, designed by Richard Garfield. Ironically enough, the designer of Magic the Gathering is Richard Garfield, who also designed King of Tokyo. That's just in a bunch of other games, by the way. Bunny Kingdom, The Hunger, a bunch of other games. And King of Tokyo's King of New York, which is King of Tokyo's sequel. Published by Iello Games. Plays 1 to 6 players and plays in 30 minutes. That's all depending on the dice rolling, because it's a heavy dice rolling game. It could be 6 players is probably longer than 30, but if the die go really well, it could change it up. In King of Tokyo, you play as mutant monsters, gigantic robots, and strange aliens, all who are trying to destroy Tokyo, while also attacking each other at the same time, to be the only King of Tokyo. At the start of each turn, you roll 6 dice, which show the following 6 symbols: a number 1, a number 2, or 3, which are victory points. It has an energy symbol, a hill, which is a heart, or an attack, which is a claw. So you rolled those die Yahtzee style. You roll once, and then if you want to keep it the way it is, great. Or you can roll as many as you want again the second time, and then you can roll as many as you want again. You could have not re-rolled some and roll them all again the third time. But that third roll, you have to accept whatever that is. So a la the old school Yahtzee style. The numbers give you victory points. The energy symbols gives you basically resources to buy cards to help you in the game. The heart restores your health. And then the claws allow you to attack other players, because there's 2 ways to win the game: eliminate every other player or get 20 points. The cool thing, I glossed over, there are special cards that let you do a bunch of different things during the game. They can give you different armor, ability to heal better, ability to attack things. Massive stack of cards. It's hard to go through that stack when you're playing in a game, but there's so many cards in the game that make it pretty cool. I already said this. In order to win the game, you must either destroy Tokyo by claiming 20 victory points or eliminating every other player. And it's automatic win when that happens. When you hit the 20 points or when everyone else is eliminated, you automatically win the game. And that is the gameplay.
Yeah. So, starting with setup and teach, because we can't really discuss the game until you get there. And Jason mentioned it with Arc Nova, that it's just so big. Setting it up, teaching it, you have to, if we're going to properly review a game, you have to discuss the workload that's on the front side of it. So, like a classic example of this is when I'm up there at Jason's house, 9 times out of 10, I'm coming home, like I'm either taking a shower before dinner, or most days I get home, Jason and I are talking anyways, and then it's like, oh, we should eat dinner. And then it's, oh, we're going to play a game after dinner. So I'm going to go up and take a shower, and Jason goes downstairs and sets the game up, because like it takes time to set up almost all these games. King of Tokyo setup is honestly so simple, especially if like the box hasn't gotten booped around or anything like that, and the power-up cards have gone everywhere. If the power-up cards are still in a stack, you shuffle those, lay this very simple, the board is a literal cardboard square that has 2 circles on it. That's it.
Yep. I mean, really the longest part of the setup is choosing which monster you want to be. The monsters don't have asymmetric powers, but they're so different. Like Cyber Bunny is who I always go be, is Cyber Bunny. But I mean, when we were set up, I was like, really, that is literally almost the longest part of the setup is literally choosing which character you want to be, even though they don't have abilities. You just have this really cool character. So super easy to set up for sure.
Yeah. It's, and if you come from a Yahtzee background, the teach is so simple, because that's something that I feel like when you're learning this, the idea of I'm going to roll all my die, I'm going to decide what I want, and then I'm going to pick them up and roll again. If you have a Yahtzee background, that is so straightforward. I know when I was a youth pastor, we literally I kept 6 die in my bag, or I kept 5 die because Yahtzee's 5. I kept 5 die in my bag, just in a little Ziploc bag, because if we were stuck somewhere, we were waiting, and I had students, we would just play Yahtzee just out in the open, because you didn't really need the score sheets, because you could just take a piece of paper and make your own score sheet.
Right.
So it is something that like, it settles very quickly. Jason, have you ever had people like struggle to grasp this game, to get through the setup and teach?
Not really. The things people, if there's one thing they struggle with, because it doesn't necessarily make sense, is that, so the way you score just pure victory points, other than buying a card that does that, well, you have to roll, your final roll has to include 3 of a single number. So if you have 3 1s, it's only 1 point. And then every additional 1 is 1 point as well. So you have to roll 3 1s to get 1 point. 3 2s are 2 points. 3 3s are 3 points. Not like 3 1s or 3, and 3 2s or 6s. So once you get reality that the 3 of those is only 1 point, and then it makes sense. And then one more die is 1 more point. That's probably the most complex thing. The only other thing that people tend to forget is that when you're in Tokyo, you cannot heal yourself with hearts. It's just a rule of the game. You can heal it with cards, but you can't heal it with hearts. So if there's any complex part of the teach, is just reminding folks how the victory points go and that you can't heal yourself while in Tokyo. And that's it. Do you agree with that, or do you have any other experiences with it?
Yeah, no, I that is 100% going for the points is like, so it's very confusing for people. And the idea of, and we'll talk about this in the gameplay, but when you like the punches, cause they look like claws, but I think the game actually calls them punches. But you're like, the idea that if you're in Tokyo, when you punch everyone who's outside of Tokyo. And when you are outside of Tokyo, your punches just directly affect the people or the monster in Tokyo. So there's this optional trade that happens of if you get punched and you're in Tokyo, you can choose to be like, all right, I'm out. And then you automatically switch with whoever just punched you. So people will go through a turn really early and they don't want to be in Tokyo because the idea of everyone punching them sounds scary. So there are folks, we end up with a lot of like, okay, you kept rolling for punches. You have 4 punches. You're definitely going to be the one heading into Tokyo. And they're like, well, I didn't realize that like I was going to be caught in that. And so people try to back out of it. It's a very fascinating game. And we'll talk about this a little in strategy, but like, it's so fascinating to me because if you don't love Take That, that's an essential part of this. But there are times where you can kind of just dodge the Take That element of this game. Yep. If the die are rolling how you want them to. So it creates some interesting variety there. Now the theme sounds, on how we've described it so far, like it's super well incorporated because it's these monsters battling over, but because the honest, like the pieces are so straightforward, it actually, the fact that you're in Tokyo just doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought about this when I was typing this out, right? You can kind of emote, okay, I'm a monster. And so the actions you take make sense, right? I'm a monster. I can either attack you or I can get hearts or I get energy from my monster to do something cool, right? So that's part of the theme. But I don't really feel like I'm a monster attacking Tokyo. Whereas in Arc Nova, and I'll pivot to that, in Arc Nova, you literally go do partnerships with universities. It seems simple, but thematically it makes sense because I'm a zoo working with universities, and it now helps you get other things cheaper. You do partnerships with countries or continents around the world, and your relationship with those continents now give you the ability to bring an animal to your zoo for cheaper because you have a relationship. So when you go deep into it, I don't really necessarily feel like a zookeeper in Arc Nova, but the principle of it all is it all thematically makes sense. Whereas Tokyo, I mean, it can almost be any other theme, but this kind of makes sense. The production helps it for sure. We'll talk about production later on. The artwork on the card definitely makes you pretend you can be those guys doing the damage across Tokyo.
Yeah, but I pretend you're going to have to do some heavy lifting here.
For sure.
Like it is, if you try to thematically make this, the most thematic that I see it is when people play Mechagodzilla and they just like, I have one guy who you talked about, you always played the bunny, a friend who always plays Mechagodzilla, and on his turn, he always starts with, I am the destroyer of cities. Here's my roll. And then he rolls. And then I am the destroyer of cities. Here's my reroll. And like he leans into it, loves it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome.
That's just, and I love a theme. I love to lean into it. I love to act and create the vibes. I can't even do it on this game because I'm just excited to roll some dice and punch some people.
And that ends up being what you're doing, right? Because we're rolling dice to try and eliminate people, and that becomes the fun of it. Totally agree.
So gameplay, I think Jason nailed it in the description. Like the length of playing this game, if everyone's dialed, because it's an older game in terms of 2011, because it's a very good gateway game, it feels very similar to me in the Ticket to Ride realm of if you play with the right people who know what they're doing, this game flies by.
Yeah.
You can play so fast because you're rolling. Another really cool part about the components are that each character has a board that has 2 like spinning dials on it. And those dials are for health and they are for victory points. So as you're using those, you can calculate things very fast. You're not having to do a ton of math on those things. You're just tick, 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 scrolling that wheel down. Super straightforward. Really, the biggest like slowdown between things is if someone buys energy cards, you have to pull that power up away and replace it with a new one. And then everyone crowds over the middle of the board and they're like, all right, what's that card say? What's that? Okay. Yeah. All right. Cool. And that's the longest thing that happens on the entire turn, because if you're outside the city and you're punching, it only affects one person. If you're inside the city and punching, everyone knows when the person who's in the city is going to punch or like going to play their turn. All right, I'm paying attention.
Yep.
Like the person beside me, I don't really care what they do on their turn. If they're not inside Tokyo, you can't really do anything to me.
Yep.
So length, I would agree. If you play with 6 people, it's interesting because it feels like it takes more time, but also realistically, there's just more people throwing punches, which gets you to the end of the game faster as well. So it really does kind of like work itself to most of the time. If I rarely played a 6-player count, but we've played a lot of 5-player counts and we played a lot of 3-player counts. And the pace is usually somewhat similar, at least from my experience. I don't know how often you get 6 to the table for this.
We've had it because of Elizabeth's one of 4 and they all play games. In the early days, when we first got into gaming heavier, we really went heavy when we got back from Germany. The first Christmas trip, first Christmas in Florida, everybody came down to our house and we were given King of Tokyo. That's when we got King of Tokyo. So that was whatever year that was, 2012 or 2010, 2013 actually. Anyway. So it only been released 2 years, and we got it, that was a game we played a lot because the gameplay is so easy, and we even had 7, so we even created a 7th character. Because you could do it because you could just track it on a piece of paper. You literally could track hearts. It's more work. Okay, I have 9, now I have 7, now I have 8, now I have 4, and you could track points because that's all you need. And then 1 pair of dice, and then we even use like a Lego figure or something. I know we use for the other thing. A cool thing about the gameplay as well, and we haven't hit on it yet, so it goes to 6, and Robbie referenced on the board there's 2 circles, but you only use 1 circle when you have 4 players. But if you have 5 or 6, 2 monsters have to be in King of Tokyo all the time. Talking to Robbie's point about the game, even with 6 doesn't really seem long because everyone else is attacking 2 monsters at once. And so you're just running through health, and those 2 monsters are getting to each roll during that round and attack everybody else. So it can go quicker. We had a couple of long games at the beginning. The very first game is famous. Elizabeth could tell you about it. Is the first time we played it, so we didn't quite get the strategy, and she went hard and got eliminated early, like very early. We haven't talked about this yet, by the way. If there's a knock, if you don't like take that, okay. And if you don't like elimination and everybody else is still playing, this game may not be for you, but it's not a super long game, so you can wait. Elizabeth got knocked out, and we played for like 45 more minutes because it was our first gameplay. She was a trooper about it. The Elizabeth of today would not be a good trooper. She was with her siblings, so it was all good. But she literally got eliminated like very, very early because we didn't really know, okay, wow, you're out of the game for good. And 45 minutes later, we're still playing. So, but that's a cool thing, the cool modification, or the way the rules change that. So when it goes to 4 to 5, and if you have a 6-player game, you've eliminated 2, and now you're down to 4. Well, now you only use 1 circle, and there's not 2 people in the city during that time. So, yeah, I think you're right. As I said earlier in the episode, if the die aren't going your way, or if the die are hitting a certain way, the game could go on. But that's the exception, not the rule. Every game's not going to be that way, but you may have a game that goes longer because you just keep getting so many hearts on your roll, and you keep rebuilding it, and you're not able to get points. Because the other thing about gameplay, the tactical side of it, every time you go into Tokyo, you get a point. And if it goes all the way around and comes back to you, and you're still in Tokyo, you get 2 points. because whenever you are attacked, if you're in Tokyo, if your monster's in Tokyo and anyone attacks you, you have the option to leave. You still have to take that hit, but you get the option to leave, and the person who attacked you has to go into Tokyo. So that's the way you keep getting points, because every time you pull in Tokyo, you get a point. But if you make it all the way around to your turn again, now you get 2 points, which I think is super cool, because it can escalate how far do I want to push that from with respect to the gameplay. There's a little bit of strategy, but that's just, we hadn't highlighted the specifics of that.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I'm going to have a turn where I'm going to try to go for like 5 hearts, and you're just going to try to stack up hearts.
Yep.
And then you're hoping that you're not in the city at that point, and you're hoping when person gets around to Tokyo that they're just kind of all trading each other in and out of Tokyo the whole time. And then when it comes around to you, you're like, game on. You roll big punches, get in the city, take everyone's hits, and then boom, you get 2 points, and then you can turn around and just fire back out at everyone. It's the complexity of the strategy of this game. If you just had punches, points, and hearts, I think this game plays really well. I think it's simple. That was the concept. Yep. There's no way that they were like, all right, let's think about this. And then they add in this 6th die option, which is power-ups, the energy. And this is something that as a take that lover, the power-ups are where I am so bad at this game, because I get so entranced with the power-ups, because some of these power-ups are game breaking. But going for power-ups requires you to not be getting hearts, not be getting points, and not punching anyone, which are the 3 like major things that either keep you in the game or get you winning the game. So you're just stalling to do exactly what the card says.
Yep.
Power up, which some of the power-ups, like there's a power-up that's like whenever you punch, whether you're in Tokyo or not, you hit everyone. There's another one that's like, if you punch while you're in Tokyo, everybody takes double hits. Like, that's insane. Why? What? Yep. So there are cards when you play it. It's like, play this and you gain 6 hearts. Like, but it takes so much energy. It is so fascinating how the power-ups play, and you end up, if your crew like you get this game and you end up playing a lot, you'll notice how people just like any game, they optimize or they look and feel drawn to certain strategies. # Tuck Game Strong. But like you lean into it, and I am the guy that I'll see that initial draw of power-ups and it's 3 like mediocre cards, and everyone just starts laughing because they're like, well, Robbie's in trouble because he's going to have to take so much more time if none of us do power-ups. You know, he can't resist trying to buy one of those and see what the lottery gives him, because Jason mentioned in the setup, there's a ton of cards in the power-up deck. How do power-ups go with your family, Jason?
We tend to all like cards for sure. It's interesting. I was never, unsurprisingly, the guy who liked attacking people, mostly because our kids were a little younger. And while I don't mind beating my kids, I don't necessarily like eliminating them from a game. We didn't play Risk in our house, right? Elizabeth was a Risk player, but we never really were Risk players in our house, which is all about elimination. Because Small World, we talked about it before, but Small World is not the same because you can't do anything about it, and you're going to get another race and come right back into the game. So Small World take that, it's less take that than, hey, I'm intentionally trying to attack you to knock you out of this game. So I was very much the guy who was always trying to win by points or win by cards. But I think pretty much we all try to get cards in the game, even if whether you were an attacker or whether you were a points person or a bit of both. And that's what makes it fun, because do you go hardcore? Like Tom Vassell, Dice Tower, he says he always tries to eliminate everybody. He doesn't try to ever win by points. He wants to win by eliminating people. I always try to win by points. Even if I was just playing with not my kids, I wanted to win by points. Or do you try to do a little bit of both, as you kind of reference? You get a card that helps you attack really good, or you get a card that helps you get really good points. There's one card in there that if you roll 1 of every single thing, you get like 9 points. It's awesome. That's one of my favorite cards. And if it ever comes out, I try to get it because I just want to hit 1 of every single die face, right? And so, yeah, it was a wide variety. We never avoided the cards. the gameplay dictates if you're down to 3 hearts, well, you're going to try to get hearts if you can to build back up. But if you had enough hearts, then we would come and go with, if there's a really good card out there, this is the fun thing too, is because there's always 3 cards out. You can always spend 2 of your energy cubes to wipe the board and get 3 new cards. I love games that let you clean off a board, right? Too many, even though I'm a deck building kind of guy, too many games don't let you wipe a board during the play to see what's out there, right? Wingspan, yeah, about to say Wingspan. Wormspan, the same way. Like it wipes it in the round, but if people aren't taking cards, it's just not enough, right? I wish there was that slight variation where you could do something to wipe the board. It doesn't thematically make sense necessarily in Wingspan. So talking about it's more deeply thematic. Wiping a board here, it doesn't matter because we talked about the theme. So if a certain card was out there, we definitely go heavy with power cubes because we want a card that's going to help our game. And that stack of deck will do that for you. Sometimes the right cards come out, like any game that cards come out. If there's not going that way, we'll just wipe them and see what comes up next. So I love that. And kind of still talking about the gameplay, we just referenced it. There are too many games in my mind that have card play that don't allow you to wipe that. And so that's a unique thing about here. Other games allow it too, but I love the fact that they do that. It allows you to wipe the game. So it's a kind of a unique feature in that game compared to all these other deck building, card playing games that you get during as we play.
Yeah. And 2 energy is a large portion. That's a third of your turn that it takes to wipe the board. So like if you decide to go for an energy heavy turn, and let's say you just go crazy and you get 6 energy in one turn. First off, like we already mentioned, that is tough strategically because you have not really moved the bar anywhere else. And so you go 6 energy, you spend 2 to wipe it. Okay, well, that's gone. What if a really good card pops up and it's 5 energy?
Yep.
Well, I just had to spend 2 of my energy to try to get that card available. And now it goes back around to Jason and he's like, I just have to get 2 more energy on my turn.
Yep.
And I can buy that card. Thanks for showing that for me, Robbie. And you're
exactly.
Like, so it is this really fun back and forth. And because it's dice roll, you could be the guy who's like, man, I really want to get that card that gives me the 9 points for getting all of it. But I just can't roll energy to save my life.
Yep.
Like I'm only getting hearts or I'm only getting punches. And so sometimes you do have to kind of adapt, which is really fun. But if I think coming down to the overall mechanic, if you're a dice chucker, you love the randomness that dice brings, you'll love this.
Yep.
Whether you take that or not, this will be an enjoyable experience because I think you kind of talk about it more, Jason, because obviously you could guess it. I'm an energy guy and then I go straight to punching people. Yeah. If you told me that there weren't other numbers on those die, I would go, yeah, that makes sense. But like the rush of, I got 2 3s on the initial go.
Yep. Oh yeah. That's 3 points. That's 1/7 of the way to the victory. Like if you do that 6 more times, you win the game. I mean, come on, right? Exactly. How much are you willing to push it? But then you could roll 2 more times and never get that third 3 and get stuck with something you may not like or may not go towards your existing game plan. So going to your point, you have to pivot every die roll. You're not necessarily pivoting hard in the game, but you're pivoting for that roll because, okay, I'm trying to get energy. I didn't get energy. I didn't get points. You're going to end up with something that's going to help you most of the time with those die rolls. So yeah, I agree. Robbie said, if you like chucking dice, this is the game because it's 6 different faces. You're rolling a ton of die. I was thinking about the other thing that, you know me, I'm a fast player and everything. So I usually okay, hurry up and pass me the die. If there's other thing that slows down the game is there's 1 set of dice, you're passing them around. That's a joke, tongue-in-cheek joke there because you literally have to pass all 6 die to the next person. We're like, all right, come on, I want the die. I'm ready because I'm ready to roll those die. Because even though I'm not a take that guy, even though I'm not a Ameritrash guy who loves die rolling, I still like roll. I don't like die rolling games on principle. I still rolling die. I still love rolling die. Bang the dice game. I absolutely love for that same reason that King of Tokyo is fun. Rolling the die to see what can happen and then how you can use that to do those things. Because of that, because of those stack of cards and the variety of the die, the replayability is crazy high. Like to me, replayability of this game is way high. There are so many cards. The die can be different every single time. Literally every single roll, you're going to get something different. And we've already talked about a lot of that. You may be an attacker, but you got to pivot to something else. You may be a pointer, but you got to pivot to something else. You may go for cards, but you may have to pivot. That makes every game so different based on those cards that come out. Some games you'll go through a lot of cards, and some games you may not. But the game is so quick, it's not like you sit back and be like, I'm never going to play it again because I didn't get any cards. Well, play it again, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 cards that you like. So I think the replayability is a high value replayability. What do you think, Robbie? You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were talking before we started recording, and one thing Jason does very diligently is most of the time that we record an episode, Jason plays it like that week and leading up to it. This is one of those games that I didn't feel like I had to play because I was like, I have so many games of King of Tokyo under my belt, and it just like the memories are locked in. I can only think of a few times that I've ever played King of Tokyo just once. Like without fail, you finish a game of King of Tokyo, and because it's usually 30 minutes or less, the crew is like, all right, come on. He just won that way. We're running it back, right? We're going one more time. And so everyone goes up. And so because that deck of cards for the power-ups is so high, we usually on the second time through, we will take every power-up card that was used and we just set it off to the side. Yep. So you are guaranteed getting new power-ups. And then we actually have a house rule that I know is like, this is going to sound so funny coming from the Crawford household that loves take that. But if we have a winner in a prior game that is won by punches, aka everyone got eliminated, we modify the point acquisition to where if you just get 3 of any number value, you get a point. So instead of like, oh, I got 2 3s and a 1, traditionally you're like, wash. Yep. Like that's a bummer. This one, you get 1, like if you get a 1 2 3 point, you get 2 2s and a 3 point. Just because that way it encourages folks more often to try to run for the points. And that is something that like, now we don't add on the whole, like if you get an additional 1, like if you have 4 numbers, it's 4 points. Yeah. It's just the 1 point. So that is something that we try to bring in because that replayability, like we said, is so high. And yeah, like it's so easy to jump in and play this game over and over again. And because it's simple, no one ever walks into your second game and says, oh, I don't know what to do with that. There may be a power-up card that you've got to kind of figure out or things like that, but it is super high up there. And the production makes it so enjoyable. Like, oh, you played Battle Bunny this time. Awesome. Let's switch characters. There's an expansion that brings in power, like actual powers to the different characters. Yeah. We own it. We did not buy it because we wanted the powers. We bought it because there's a panda. It is a giant panda that allows you, like, that you get to play. And that's my boy. I only play the panda.
I can see that. Yeah, the power, it's called the power up expansion, which all the characters have cards, unique cards they get to play or something during it. We've had it for a while and we played it a long time ago. So, but I did not play with that. I just played with the base game form I played for this because of that expansion. So I won't need to add that. I just thought about that because we're talking about production. And then when we talk about cost as well, is that there are other versions of the game. There are sequels of it. There's also a different version of the game called King of Tokyo Dark Edition, which is the same gameplay, but it adds a few extra little, forgot what they're called, but a few extra little bonuses that you can earn during the game as well by turning in power-up cubes. So, and I'm about to sell my copy because it's going for really good on eBay because it's not in production right now. So, because with me thinning out my collection, King of Tokyo Dark may hit the eBay chopping block soon. But yeah, Robbie's right. Like we were talking about it beforehand, like, and I forgot about it. I added it back to our show notes real time. Like you have really good chunky dice. The art it really is cool. Like you may not like the style, but it's very good on all the cards, on the characters and on the board. It's not cheap art. It's like really cool, really clean, really it makes sense thematically within what the game is doing. For it all works together. And I've always loved the King of Tokyo art. And then I've totally forgot about the production of the fact that you have your score and health trackers are like a dial thing on there. I mean, it's a lot of cardboard in that game and a lot of stuff has gone into this game. for a very low price. I mean, it's right now. The full price is normally $45. As of today, now this is Saturday before we drop on Thursday, is $29. $29 is a steal for this game. I mean, the replayability of it is so high that you could have so many games of it for sure. I mean, that's a great deal, especially for the production of that game.
Yeah. I think about a Yahtzee that's like, I don't know what the price is of Yahtzee. I'd have to look it up, but I would imagine Yahtzee is going to cost you like $20 to get out and play Yahtzee. And what do you get? A plastic cup, a bunch of sheets of paper, and 5 D6s that are so cheap, like so cheap. So if that is the standard cost of dice, we're talking about D6s that are custom to the game, significantly nicer than a standard D6, as well as these beautiful cardboard cutouts. I wouldn't put this on the same level as for me, I would not put it in the same level of Dixit in terms of the art is so beautiful that like I want to frame it. But if I had like an anime room in my house or something like that, like I had decorated with a bunch of anime type stuff or anything like that, or even comic books, the art for this game could so seamlessly fit into that, because each, like that little board, your little player board, has the character, the fighter or the kaiju that you're playing with in a scenic area. They have to, I can guarantee you that there are prints out there of this. I'll also say, if you're going to look this up, Iello is the production studio, but it's not spelled like the color, Iello, because I know some of you, this is a podcast, so some of you are predominantly audio listeners, and you're going to be like searching for a Iello board game company, and it's like, you're going to struggle. But I would agree, $29, an absolute steal for this game. Jason, I feel like we've kind of walked through a lot of it. How are you feeling just on, bring it behind the fourth wall, or break the fourth wall a little bit? How do you feel like walking through this with the audience listening? Do you feel like this helped guide the discussion a little bit?
I think so, for sure.
We're less randomly jumping around.
No, I think it definitely helped, and we'll tweak it as we go. But for making the show notes, it's extremely helpful, because I was kind of ad-libbing a lot of it and trying to fit things in naturally. For those who don't know, I always make the show notes. Now I volunteered for that because I like doing it, and it helps me go deeper on the game for sure. So I make show notes for us before each one. But having categories, gameplay, theme, production, cost, makes it easier to put that stuff in there. It helps us kind of move from point to point as well. So I think it went well.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like we were very streamlined, and it also allowed us to like, let's not dive into this rabbit hole here. Yep. Because we're gonna talk about it later instead of just booping around. Yep.
I will say, I want to say this.
Do you want to hit cookie scale, or do you? Yeah.
No, I think we've covered it all, and I don't mean in a bad way. Like it is that easy to cover this game, because the gameplay is so easy. You're rolling dice, seeing what the results are, and taking actions on that, right? And the replayability, we kind of foot stomped it, but there's so many things you can do, even though it seems like, okay, I'm getting points or attacking with those cards, and the dynamic nature of, okay, do I go for points this time? Do I do this? I love the variety of all those things. So, and I love that push your luck mechanism on it, because you can have a really bad game, or you can have an amazing game where you're just destroying everybody because the die are just hitting. That's the dice rolling game, which is why I love and hate dice rolling game at the same time. So Space Base on BGA is just killing me right now, as is Castles of Burgundy, because those stinking die, they're computerized. Whew, I go on and on, man. I'm getting frustrated with BGA, even though I play it all the time. Okay, I'll volunteer to do cookie rating first. It is Rob. Okay, full disclosure, this is one of the top 10 best gateway games there are, probably top 20. It's a gateway game for many years for reasons for that. You can take someone who's never gamed, but understands the concept of rolling dice to play a game, because that's it. It's rolling dice, pushing your luck, and taking some actions with that. It is an all-time classic for a reason. But even when Robbie and I talked, I never really wanted to cover it, being totally transparent with this, because we played a lot at the beginning, but it fell off my radar a long time. I didn't even have a play of it in BG Stats until I still don't. I didn't even record the play that we had the other day. So that's how long it's been since I played. We had played King of Tokyo Dark once, and it definitely steps it up a little bit, but I'd only played it because the artwork is totally different. It's really dark and creepy, so it's kind of cool looking. So I will just say it out there. This is my first oatmeal raisin, for certain. It's a game we were even talking about afterwards. Like there's a really good chance, and I was just coming out worse than I mean it to. Let's be clear. This is an awesome game, and it's such a great entry level game. And most people are okay with take that kind of stuff. And you can take the non-take that route in this game. But for me, we played a lot at the beginning, but then we played the other day. I think all three of us were like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to sell this game because it's just not going to hit my table. I will never bring this out to teach somebody. If somebody asked me to play it and I have it, 100% I'll take it off the shelf. But this is not a game I personally, because I have a big collection. Again, try to twist on that. I have such a big collection. I have such a wide variety of games to show to new players that King of Tokyo would just never do it for me. Because for me, it's been played out. Even though the replayability is high, I would always go choose something else on the shelf. That's the best way I can say that. Like we're not cracking down and saying the game is bad, but this is about what it is for me. Like this is Jason's opinion about what this game is for me. And it's definitely an oatmeal raisin. It's not even close to a sugar cookie. It is an oatmeal raisin all the way, which means, hey, some people love oatmeal raisins. I don't even touch oatmeal raisin cookies, right? But I know people, we probably talked about this when I was asking friends and family about what a good cookie scale would be. Some people, their number one cookie was oatmeal raisin. They don't like chocolate chip or sugar or any of those. This could be that game for you without doubt. There's so many good things about it. For me, it's not a game I'll ever want to play. Yeah. Were you surprised by that, or did you kind of think that was coming, Robbie?
No, I in fact, we talked about what we would do for this episode, and I threw out King of Tokyo as an alternative because I think it slots well into this. But when you think about the core concepts of the game, and I think about the games that Jason likes to play, this butts against pretty much every single one of them. Like the idea that you take that, you have a 1 in 6 chance of take that happening, whether you want it to or not. So that's just going to be reality. There is the vicious cycle of, unfortunately, it is player elimination. So you can just get rocked so early, which is not necessarily a fun experience for some people. And then also there are cards that do stuff, but it's not really cards that do stuff. It's cards that power up dice that do stuff. So we don't even have like that functioning to try to draw Jason back in. And it makes sense because I think that something we're always going to find as this podcast goes is because Jason is years ahead of me in my board game collection. There are games that are going to be classics for our target audience of the podcast. And I'm here to be that bridge between the two of like Ticket to Ride. It shows you how good of a game Ticket to Ride is, that with as many games as Jason has, it's still a double doozy for him. Like that's to show you. Whereas for me, I can't put it as a double doozy. And the one major factor that keeps it even from being a chocolate chip for me is player elimination, because I know even though the games go fast, even though the replayability is so high, I could see it being a very frustrating experience. I'll use it's going to be a peanut butter for me. So right in the dead middle, I'll go ahead and put that out there. But an example of this, and I didn't even realize this existed. I see a game behind Jason on the shelf of shame that is Dead by Daylight, the board game. I had not played the video game Dead by Daylight until recently. And if you're unfamiliar with the game, there are 4 survivors and there is a guy hunting them down, trying to eliminate them. So my first game that I ever play, I played with 4 friends, and one guy says, I'm just going to hunt Robbie down and kill him right off the bat. And I was like, ha 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 ha. Okay. 3 minutes into the game, I'm dead. Like I literally just got eliminated. And I don't know the game well enough to get away from it. So then I didn't even realize that I could like spectate after it was over. Well, the game goes on for another 20 minutes. So I physically get up and just leave my computer. And everyone's like, oh no, Robbie's so mad. And was I a little annoyed? For sure. But also not a fun game experience. And unfortunately, if you can't roll hearts and everyone else rolls punches, like you could get rocked super early and have an Elizabeth experience of everyone's going on and playing this game. Really tough.
Right.
So while that is a drawback, and it is a major drawback that is so major, it drops it 2 points for me on the scale.
Yeah.
Everything else about this game to me is double doozy worthy.
Yeah.
There's competitive strategy because of all the different ways to attack, but also you can kind of lay loose on it because you're rolling dice. So that's fine. Like, yep. I can't be too serious about it. You have functional cards that create asymmetric powers. That's so cool. Like, I have power-ups. Jason and I, based on having 2 different power-ups that we've purchased, could have the exact same dice rolls for the rest of the game, and our experience is going to be entirely different.
Yep.
That is super cool. Really fun art. The theme, a little bit of a notch. Once again, as a role player myself, I just can't get into it. Sorry.
Yeah.
But Iello is a game studio that I love a lot of their games. So it's not surprising to me that I really enjoy King of Tokyo. And once again, from a connection standpoint, if we have a game night and people are late or we have more than we anticipated, we will bring King of Tokyo out without even blinking. If like it's either Super Mario Bros. Card game or it's King of Tokyo. Those are the 2 games that we just kind of default to. We have time. And so with a, I would say a decent sized collection, but not an inherently large collection, I feel like that's fair inside the hobby gaming world as a descriptor of where I'm at. I think if you're sub 200 games, you have a large collection.
Yeah, you have a large collection. So if you're over 20 or 30 games, for sure.
Yeah. Fire away.
2 points to make that when you talked about it, it kind of came to light. One, what's interesting, and I think I've referenced this on another episode, but so many of the things about King of Tokyo that aren't for me, I love in Bang the Dice game. Bang the Dice game, you are rolling Yahtzee style dice, trying to attack people and eliminate people and identify who's the outlaw, who's the renegade, who's the sheriff, right? I love that game. So it's just show even within the space. I'm pretty sure I made this point before. Even within the space, if I'm not a take that guy, absolutely love Bang the Dice game because of the thematics and the stories that come out of it. We talked about the story on USDGC, but we've had our own other stories that can just go great. Now, the difference, though, and it's going to come back to your point on Dead by Daylight, in Bang the Dice game, you're targeting a specific person to attack. Even though there's player elimination in King of Tokyo, you never really, I can't say I'm going to eliminate Robbie in this game because I may not, the way Dead by Daylight did for you. Because when you're in Tokyo, if you're monster in Tokyo, everybody's attacking you. It's not personal. When if they're rolling on their turn and they're attacking you, it's not a personal thing. They're going to attack you by default, right? If you're in Tokyo, you're attacking everybody else. So I'm not targeting Elizabeth or targeting Ryder if I'm in Tokyo. It's just the way the game goes. So I like that even though there's player elimination, it can't be personal. Oh, this game, my goal is to knock Robbie out. Well, you actually at the beginning of the game may have no control over the ability to knock Robbie out. But conversely, if you see they only have 3 hearts left and you're in Tokyo, well, now's the time. It's a little personal, but it's mostly because I'm trying to win the game, right? But it's not this measure of I'm going to start this game and I'm going to take you out, right? That's not King of Tokyo at all. You may end up doing that, but you can't go in with it. And I like that, right? Because you can't have this, this is the time I'm going to show Robbie what's up. The die may not go your way. He may not hit it. So while there's elimination, it's less personal if someone attacking you the way Risk can do, right? We know there's strategy in Risk, but sometimes you just go after somebody in Risk. King of Tokyo doesn't facilitate that, and I like that. So even though you're getting hit, it's not like Elizabeth's going after me personally, right? She's just trying to win the game. And I can say 100%, even though there's elimination, there's less hurt feelings because it's the way the game goes and it's less personable.
Yeah. That's such a good point. And even in the Dead by Daylight story, like I'm excited to play that game again on the next time that I get to get around to it. But our target audience here is bringing new players into the space.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think Jason nailed it in that you're going to get eliminated. You're either going to win the game or odds are you're going to get eliminated. Very, very rarely, and I feel like I have over 50 games of this played at least. It's probably less than 15 the amount of times that someone's won by points because it's difficult to accrue points. And there is a funness to like, all right, Lindsay's rolling into Tokyo. Oh, that's 5 punches. That is going to hurt all of us. So you're like, it creates some really fun scenarios. But Lindsay didn't walk into Tokyo and like, all right, Elizabeth's going down. You're right. Like it's just, it rolls out to the audience. So it balances it really well. And yeah, like there's a joy to it, and you can walk into the game and okay, cool. Like you got eliminated super early. If you know how to play the game well enough, yeah, sure enough, you just roll around and you get going again. So, any final thoughts as we wrap things up here, Jason?
No, I think it's good. I'm glad we covered this. Similar to Dominion, even though those games aren't high on my list, they're very important for our podcast and our audience because we're trying to introduce people to new games like Cascadia that's great for beginners, or older games like Dominion that are great for beginners, right? Because you never know what you're going to find that you love. We introduced Nate to Dominion. Now he plays on the app a lot, but he loves the game because the app facilitates a lot of the station keeping, but it's the principle of that gameplay that he loves, right? And while those things may not be high in my eyes, it's still great to bring to our audience so they have something to try out. Because I do have great memories of all the plays. It's just not there anymore for me. So, and that's just not a bad thing. And so I'm definitely glad we talked about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a game that, regardless of whether you own it and keep it in your collection, things like that, if you're having a conversation with people and you talk about dice rolls that attack, like if that mechanic is brought up, King of Tokyo inspired so much of that for a ton of people. And so it is a foundational game at the worst for us to cover. It is foundational on how it has impacted the greater board game community. And for many people, it's going to hold a special place in their heart. And even if you're Jason Collins and you're going to sell it, there's still going to be some memories of certain particular games of King of Tokyo that reign in. So we hope that it's that way for you guys. We hope that for those of you who, it's worth checking out. It's worth investigating. And once again, if you can find it at $45 for its standard price, that can be a pricey game, and I understand that. But at $29, if you're trying to grow a game collection at $29, this is one of the highest value purchases you can make for your game collection. That is, you could not have played in a long amount of time, and you can grab it and instantly throw it back on. So, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We are episode 25 coming up next, and we're going to have a special guest on for a little review, and really excited for a little different type episode. So hope you guys are excited as well, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
See ya.